Guys, it's Benson here with another art video. It's been a long time. It's been like over a year since I've really done much art because it's been a really great year for me in a lot of ways. I bought a house, I got married, got a dog, some changes in my job, tons of great new stuff, but it just hasn't allowed for a lot of time for all the creative stuff that I made this channel for in the first place. So hopefully now that I've got all those big life milestones out of the way, I can put a little bit more time into this stuff. I've been doing music, I've been working on an album, and that's exciting. But I wanted to start posting some art videos and get back into drawing this kind of classic tattoo flash style that I'm really passionate about. And so I thought I'd do something a little different with this one and kind of get some of the dust off because it's been a long time since I've done any art, as I said. So I'm doing this kind of fast motion time lapse video of me drawing on my iPad, and just thought I would talk over it and tell you kind of some of the things that I learned from doing it, some of my thought process, and some tips along the way. So I thought I would do something a little different and do more of like a leopard head. You know, you see a lot of tigers, you see a lot of panthers, but you don't see a ton of leopards. So I found a few references that I'm just kind of looking at now and then. But trying to do this kind of, something that I haven't done before. I always like to do that and just feel it out and make mistakes and learn from it. So right now it looks a little bit like a honey badger or something, right? Like it looks, which is kind of cool, but it's not. It's not a leopard. So one of the great things about drawing digitally is that you can just undo, you can grab stuff, you can resize it, you can warp it. Like so here I made the jaw wider and moved the ear back further, and it's starting to look a little bit more like a wildcat, which is more what I want. Obviously, it's a very stylized version of a cat to begin with, so it's not gonna look like an actual leopard, but it has to have that kind of feel to it. So I think it's a lot more like it now with the whiskers and that wider chin. So for anyone who's curious, by the way, about what brushes I'm using, a lot of you might know that I created my own brush set specifically for doing tattoo flash that looks like it was watercolor painted because I absolutely love the way that stuff looks, but it's a lot of it's a pain to set it up. It's a lot of cleanup. It takes a lot of time, and nothing against that by all means, but being able to just throw this in my backpack and do like a spit shade style painting wherever I want is awesome. So I always start off with the pencil that comes in my Procreate pack, and then I take that layer, I make it more transparent like you've seen here, and I start refining it with this stabilized brush. So all these brushes in this video are part of that Procreate kit. I might as well plug myself. Not a sponsor, but I do have it available for sale on my website if anyone's interested. I know a lot of you have already purchased it and have had great things to say, which I really appreciate. And you can always reach out to me if there's any issues, but I haven't had any come up at all. So I just like to do a second layer a lot of times if it's like a more complex design, just to have a better idea of where I want the lines to be so they're a little less sketchy. Just commit a bit more, and that's why I call it the stabilized refining brush. It's just like a nice smooth feeling tool where it's still loose, you're not committing too much, but you're refining. So just kind of deciding where all I want the lines to be. And one tip that I always have in mind with this is creating curves that are satisfying to the eye wherever you can. So that comes down to like gentle C shapes and even more so gentle S shapes. Like you'll notice a good example is like the bottom of the drawing, the jawline. It's like a backwards S. And so I don't know where I first heard that from, but someone taught me that especially in this style, but probably most styles of art, if you can incorporate that gentle S curve, like, the middle of the ear there has another one. It's just a really satisfying and pleasing shape to put into your art that the eye just naturally is drawn towards. So that's something that I want to be more mindful of and try and capture like more of a flow, right? That's one thing I do like about this design. The head kind of has like a flow. The whole thing has a nice sort of curve to it. And so it's just another thing to be more mindful of as I continue to learn. And so I'm just kind of making up where I want the dots to be, the spots. And I decided I would do like more of a rough edge to the neck there to imply that it's just, it's not cut off, but it's just discontinued there. And here I'm using the warp tool. So if you hit the warp tool, you can actually add those other dots in it for even more control. At the bottom, you'll see I think it's might be cut off in my video here, but I love to use that warp tool. It's just a lifesaver. I usually duplicate the layer before I do too much warping though, and as you'll see here, I'm kind of going back and forth and seeing, do I actually like the changes that I just made? Because it's really easy to make changes without realizing that you've actually just made it a lot worse. So it's always good to kind of preserve the unaltered version, and then you can A/B it. And that's something I learned with photography, with music production, and with art, all the things that I like. It's very easy to become blind to what's actually good if you aren't constantly referencing other people's work and your previous work. That's like the biggest piece of advice I have for whatever it is that you're creating. Always be referencing things that you like, and that way you'll have a compass and you'll know whether you're headed in the right way or not. But you still want to take risks. You still want to kind of go outside the box here and there, but just kind of have that tool in your back pocket that you can always pull out your compass and see, hey, am I headed in the right direction? Again, with the whiskers, trying to do that kind of flow thing, kind of fan them out in a satisfying way. And this is like the final line work layer. So this is one of my favorite brushes. It is the permanent marker brush, and I tried to make it almost like a Sharpie, where it's got a little bit of a fuzzy edge to it, and I keep the opacity a little bit down. You can see that bottom slider. I have my sliders on the right, by the way. I don't know if some people have them on the left, but I'm left-handed, obviously. So I just like to keep the opacity down on my paintbrush and my Sharpie, just so that when there's overlap, it's a little bit more saturated, a little bit darker, which gives it more of a natural look. One of my hobbies, as I've kind of reflected over all the things I do, one of my hobbies is trying to create analog feeling things using digital tools. And whether that's editing photos to look like film, editing music to sound like, a cassette tape or vinyl, or any number of analog recording tools, or in this case, making digital art that has the quality of a watercolor painting on paper. That's just something I enjoy. So that's why I try to keep things a little bit rough with my drawing. Like, I could make things perfect lines, I could make them perfect circles, I could turn the stability up on all my brushes, I could just drag and drop to color fill things rather than actually painting them manually. But I want that kind of human touch quality in there, of each brushstroke and the imperfections that come with it. And that's what's so great with doing things this way, is you can dictate exactly how perfect you want it to be. So you have control over the human errors, really, more than you would, which is kind of ironic to say. For example, sometimes I prefer a more stabilized permanent marker brush. And so what you can do is you can just duplicate the brush and just click on it and rename it stabilized Sharpie or something like that. And you can drag the stabilization sliders up, and that will give you a duplicated brush that's more stabilized for, if you want to have a little bit more of a clean or polished looking piece. Whereas this, I think I'm just using the default settings that come with the kit, and it's a little bit more prone to the movements that you might accidentally make, a little bit of wobble, or just human imperfection, which to me is part of the charm of this style. This is folk art. I don't want it to look like clip art. I want it to look like it has some soul and someone put thought into it and heart. So that's kind of what led me to make this brush set in the first place. And I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially for this watercolor type stuff here. So what I do is I use the paintbrush. I think it's called the Perfect paintbrush, and I just paint in kind of the shadows, and then I use the blending brush, which also comes with the kit. It's called like a spit shade blending brush or something like that. Watercolor, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I actually made the kit, but you use that and you gently blend just like you would on paper. If you were spit shading, you just gently kind of smooth out the edges and make them look like ink that's bleeding into the paper pulp. So it creates like a really satisfying looking gradient compared to using something like an airbrush or like a pencil crayon type of thing. To me, it's just it's a look that I love. People like Paul Dobelman is one of my favorite painters. He does the most amazing black and gray spit shaded tattoo flash, and so that's kind of the look that I really like to go for. And I found that the best way to use that brush is just to gently, not push too hard and just make small repetitive movements, or large ones, but just not pushing too hard, and just kind of build things up back and forth like that along with the line. But you can try different things. It definitely works to go against the line as well, or in little circles. But that really is, I think, the key to having this kind of natural looking painting is having that, using that blending tool and having a paper overlay. This is just like a watercolor paper overlay. There's one that comes in my Procreate toolkit as well. So it's this shading that really makes it look like an American traditional flash piece to me. There's kind of this unwritten rule, and it's not a rule because there are no rules, but someone once told me that it's good to have roughly a third of your flash be black shading, and a third of it be color if you're doing color, and a third of it be negative space or just empty skin if it's a tattoo. And I don't follow that here, and I don't follow really anything like that dogmatically, but it's something to keep in mind when you're looking at different pieces that you like, and ask yourself, like, what percentage of this is black, what percentage of it is color or shading, and how much of it was left open. And so that really, the underlying lesson there is just to try and find balance with whatever you're doing. And so with this piece, one thing that I like is that, as it starts to come together a bit more, you'll see that the top left is quite dark and the bottom right is quite light. So it leads your eyes towards the face, towards the mouth, towards the eyes, and there's kind of an overarching gradient to the entire thing. And it's not me who's come up with this. This is what happens when designs are handed down over decades. They kind of get improved on and changed, and naturally I think some of these things happen where you end up, the best designs end up finding their own balance. And it's always good to know where the most contrast is in a piece, so that you can be intentional about it. Wherever you have the most contrast, wherever you have the most stark differences between light and dark, or the most line work, the most density of information, that's where the eyes are going to be drawn to. And so in this case, having the eyes be a different color than most of the piece, and having just the white, the sclera of the eye left, so clear, really makes the eyes pop. And another thing that I've started doing there with the pupil is, rather than drawing a full circle, just draw like a C or a backwards C, so that you have a little bit of catch light in the pupil. And I just picked that up from copying some artists that I like. Typically that's something that they do a lot in like lady head portraits. It's something that I love because as someone who's interested in portrait photography, one thing that's really important is to have catch lights in the eyes, because it gives soul and depth and life to a portrait. And a catch light is just a reflection in a dark area of the eye that looks white from a light. So little things like that. It's just an example of whatever it is that you're doing in your life, whether it's, in my case, like photography or music. Those things translate into other areas of your life. And even though I might feel like I haven't been practicing art, by doing other things and just gaining experience in life in general, that will come through. That will always pay off and show up in ways that you may not expect in other creative pursuits. And that's kind of why I made this channel just Bensen.Creates rather than, art or music or whatever other things I'm doing, because I like to not pigeonhole myself into one area of creativity and just try different things, because it all connects, and it all influences itself in unexpected ways. So anyway, that's kind of been me rambling. I think it's almost coming to a close here. This is one of the first color pieces I've done. I pretty much have just mostly done black and gray prior to very recently, and I really like the way it came out. And one tip I have for just picking colors, because it's really hard to get a nice palette. If you're doing something digitally like this, you can just find art that you love, like find a picture of a tattoo that you love, and you can color grab. I'm not saying copy people's art at all, but some of these colors, like the red on the tongue, I color grabbed that from an actual photo of a tattoo. So that's actually the color of red ink in someone's skin. And you can just kind of pick from different people's palettes, what you like from this, what you like from that, and come up with your own thing. That's how I came up with this kind of unconventional use of pink in the nose and ear rather than the red, was just because I saw someone else do it. So there it is. There's lots of things I would change if I did it again, but I learned from it, and now I'm not as rusty. And so hopefully I'll be posting more of these videos. I would definitely like to know if you have any suggestions or feedback, either for my art, if you have something that you're like, whoa, you should try this, that'll help, or for my videos. I've actually got a new tripod, so I can do a better job with these over-the-shoulder time-lapse videos going forward. But I'm hoping to make some more of these. Definitely check out my brush set if that's something that appeals to you. My website is Bensen.Creates.com, and it is on there. I'll put the link below. And otherwise, I encourage you to go do something that you love. And thanks again for watching. Have a great day.